ArrayList, to fully understand or to fully appreciate the feature of ArrayList or the advantage of ArrayList from arrays, to check now what are those limitations of arrays. Okay. Consider a phone catalog program that allows the user to enter a new name and phone number. So take note, you're going to keep on adding new name at the same time the phone number. Stores name in a string array and phones in another string array. Allows the user to search for a phone number given a name. So these are then the constraints of the program that we are going to create. Question is, what should be the size of the arrays? We do not know in advance. So with this kind of problem, we cannot determine what's the exact size of the arrays because we keep on adding information such as phone number and name of the owner of that phone number. This is a major limitation of arrays. We must know their size when we create them. As you would recall our example with arrays, when we declare array, we have to place or we have to put now the size of an array. And to make it sure that we cover everything that the array needs, what we place in the size is the maximum number that the array can cater to be safe. Okay. How do we remove items from an array? So with array also not straightforward. Every time that we will remove item from an array, it will be immediately replaced with a null value or 0, null for a string, 0 for an integer. The array list, now here comes now array list. So that's why there is an array list. So when you say array, it's static, it's fixed. There you have a specific length. And there are areas or constraints that you cannot, that's bounded with arrays such that you cannot delete any elements within it or deduct the size or elements of or the size of an array. But with array list, it is an alternative to arrays in Java. They make it easy to, one, initialize without specifying a size. You can extend to whatever size that you would want because it does not limit you to a specific size. Adding more elements and increasing the size, that means you can add at the same time. You can also increase the size of your array. At the same time, you can also remove elements, inserting elements in the middle. To use array list, include this line at the top of your code. So this is now the package that you have to include once you make use or once you use array list. Example, this is an array list of integers. So this is how you will declare an array list and an integer declaration. So creating an new array list of integers. So see the red line. So this is how you declare now an array list. Note, no need to specify a size. Initial size is 0. So we have array list is the keyword and the data type of the array list. And then the variable name that we have, which is result, equals, we instantiate now new array list and then integer. In open and close parentheses. As you can see now the line of command, it does not have a specific size. It does not have any limit. And at the same time, it also does not have an initialization requirement of 0. Immediately, it initializes to 0. While true, so let us have a simple recap of what this code is doing. So while true, what the true value here is if this statement is true, then the loop will keep on running or the loop will not end. So when would the loop exit or when will the loop ends? When this statement becomes false. So when you say return, okay, so we have system.out that printf, enter a number or Q to quit. String input equals in dot next. So we get now the input. Next is an integer. Next is a string. Next int is the integer. Okay, so we have if input dot equals, so we compare now the input value that we have. If input dot equals is q, that's a character, then return now result. So result will be, what's the value of our result? The value of our result is the last input that the last integer input that is being struck. So we have int number equals integer that parse int input. So this is the input of the user. Result that add, then the number. The number that was converted, which is from input from the user, it is converted into an integer format and now stored in the number variable. Result that add, the dot add methods allows you to add value to the array list. Anyway, this is a method named ArrayList user integers method declaration. So let's see what's next. So we have adding a new number to the array list. So see red line. So there you have now result that adds. In our array, we have to put now index or get the index value, and there we put now the value of the array. But with array list, we just call the that add method to add an elements to the array list. So use the add method to add now elements or to add value to your array list. So every time the user inputs a number, if it's a number, it will be added to the result array list. So this is the result array list. It will be added to result array lists. So, okay. And then to get now the size, to getting the size of an array, still we use the size method similar to that of your array. We use the size to get the size of an array. So we have this is the main method. We declare now numbers as an integer, and then we call now users integer as the name of our method, and it will perform now the method user integers. And since user integers is declared as an array list, therefore this method should also be declared as an array list in the declaration method. So system.out.printf, next line, for I equals 0 and I lesser than numbers dot size. So this is now numbers, whatever be the size of the user integers input, then that would be the size of the number. So if the moment we perform users integers method, if the user strike 5 numbers, then the size of number is also 5. So it's not fixed. It depends on the output, or it depends on how many input does the user integers method happen to process. And then system.out.print position %t, that's a number, which is the value of your I, equals %t/n, which now numbers that get I. So that numbers that get I, it gets now the number, the value of numbers as array list at a location I. And our I travels from 0 to the last value inputted in the number. So if the input is 5, then numbers also will be 5. If the number of input is 10, then numbers also is 10. So that would be from 0 to 10, or that would be from 0 to 5 if the input of the user is 5. So we have used the get method to access now the elements of array. So public static void main, this is our main method. Array list, so it's an integer, numbers equals user integer. So this is the method name as we checked it. You have user integers as your method, and it is an empty parameter method, and it's an array list declared, or the data type we use. And then, so to get now, again, accessing the elements of array lists. So we have here the red line, use the get method. So we have public static void main. This is our main method. Array list as our array list integer declared. Number is the variable, and user integer is the name of the method. That process now input numbers or q if you would like to exit in the program. So system.out.printf again, /n for the new line. And we have now position D, position equals position D. So the first D here is represented by I, and your I will be from 0 to the length of your numbers, which is now an input from the user. And it's a form of array list. So again, it's a method. And the numbers that get, so if array use the numbers and then open and close brace, and then the I value to access each element of the array. Now in array list, we use of the get method to get now the elements of the array list. So we have numbers that get open and close parenthesis, and then your I, and your I will change from 0 to 5 depending on the value or the length of the number. So I mentioned 5, that if the number of input happen in the user's integers is 5, then therefore the length of numbers is also 5, and your I value will be from 0 to 5. So that would mean this is 0 to 5, and this will keep on displaying 5 times because your I is up to 5. Let us see the output of the program in the actual environment of Eclipse. This is now the actual program of an array list that accepts now an input of integer from the user, and it exits now from the loop of asking a number from the user once it encounters q character. So as you can see here, we import now java.util.ArrayList as one requirement when you use now ArrayList. So this must be part of the declaration of the import package. So we have ArrayList in order for your ArrayList to work. Okay, ArrayList. So this kind of example is a use now method, and the name of our method is user integer. So as I highlight, it also now prompt the connections of user integer. So this user integer here is the user integer, that the name of the method that we have as publicly declared, public statically declared. Okay, next is we have array list integers and numbers as our variable of the array list, and we call now the user integer method, and it is an empty parameter. We did not pass any value to that of the method user integer, but it is an array list declaration. Take note of the way it is declared. If it's an array list, you have the class name array list and the type of the array list that the array list can hold. So it's an integer, therefore it's also an integer there. So the way you declared also the method is, there you have now array list integer as the type of that user integers method. So this is user integers, and it performs now the method user integers. Then we now clear one line, we empty one line, we jump to the next line, and this time we process now output. That's getting the value of I from 0 to the length of numbers, and this is our numbers. And the length of this number depends on the length of the input we have happened in the user's integers, or input process in the user's integers. And you have numbers that get I. Get means to access the value of your numbers as array list. And your I here is the address or the index value that you'd like to access from that of the numbers array list, wherein our I starts from 0 to the to the length of your numbers. So when we check now users integers as to what it is doing, so this is now users integers, scanner in, new scanner system that in, so it has now input from the user from the console. And we have array list integer result equals new array list. As you can see, it does not have any size declaration, not like with array that you have to declare the size right after you instantiate, like new array and then the size of the array. But with array list, you do not need to declare the size because it's dynamic. It is capable of adapting the size depending on the input of the user, and that would be the size of the array list. So we have while true, meaning if this statement is if true. So we have system that out that printf and enter a number or q to quit. So string input. So in that next, so we have, it's a string. Why we declared string as input? Because we will expect to strike q, and that is the limitation of the while condition, such that once it encounters the queue, it will stop the loop, or it will stop asking value from the user. So we have result. Once it encounter now queue, then it return now result. So meaning when you say return result, you exit now from this method. So you pass now the value result to that of the numbers. So while still it is not q, you will keep on int numbers. You're going to convert now input into an integer, that parse input, and then that converted number will be added to result that add. So remember the dot add methods add now an element to the array list. So it adds now an element to the array list. So every time the user strike a number, it will be added to result array list through that add method, and that number is the number input from the user, which is converted from input. Input is a string format, and it's converted into a number, so that it will be added to the result that add, knowing that we would like to access number. So let us see the result. So there you have number, enter a number or q to quit. So let's say I will press now q. So first input. Immediately it exit now from the program. So it does not ask anymore next number because it's already exited from the program. So when we run it again, this time we're going to input now a number. So I strike 1. Okay, strike 1. I did not press Q. As I press now enter, it does ask me again a number. So if I would press 10, it will ask me a number again. If I would press 12, it asks me a number again. If I press 20, it asks a number again. But if I would strike Q, it will now exited, or it will now end the loop from asking of a number. And there you have position 0. So that's the first value I inputted. which is 1, and then position 2 is 10, position 3 is, position 0 is 1, position 1 is 10, position 2 is 12, and position 3 is 50. And it exited now. Right after I press now Q, it exits now the program. Or it exists now, the loop, and it displays now the output of the numbers. This is numbers that get that I. This code was this line of code, the output of this line is code is this part of the program. So as you can see, position %d, that's the 0, equals 1% d again, which is the 0 first value here is the I, and the 1 here is the numbers that get I. Our method uses integer just process the asking of the value. So which part is this one? It asks now value from the user through the command in, and then our result is an array list. So in is the console command, and then this is now the prompt to a queue to enter a number or to quit. So this is now the line of command, and this is the part where the input queue or number is classified. So if it is a queue input, then it will process this line of command from line 25 to 28, wherein if it is equals to queue, it will now exit from this method because of that command return result, then pass the value to that of the user integer, which is now numbers, and then process the next line of command. But if it is a number, if in is a number, then this will not be processed. Then it will jump to this line, which is you convert now input into an integer, and that integer will be added to result array list through that add method, and the number variable, which is the converted string input or a string format input, into a number. So this method uses integer. The output is this one. So this output here is processed by this method uses integers, and this output line command position 0 equals 1 is performed by this kind of command, by this part of command of the program. So this is now an example of array list. So again, you have array list as the class and the data type, then the variable name. You also have to import the package java.util array list, and the method .get, the get method to get now to access now the elements of each of the array list. And you have now the method add to add or to put a value to your array list. And you also have a method size, this is the size, to get now the size of your array list. So this is an example of array list. Array list. To sum it up, when you say array list, it's dynamic. It does not give you any limitations as to the length of your array. You can expand, you can delete, you can add a value to the middle in it. And unlike with array, that's limited or static. So that's array list.